First off, my voice is going to be like 4 octaves lower today, and that's because it hurts a lot. Because I was at a bar last night and it was really loud. But we're going to get through it. We're going to persevere. So, I recently being like a month or two ago, read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And the book itself was good. It was a little confusing. I'm still not entirely sure what it is he was trying to say. Maybe somebody could explain that to me if they themselves got it, but I didn't. Or at least not fully, I don't think. But something that I found myself coming back to very often, more so than the book itself, and I found very it intermingles a lot with a lot of the things that I think about or try to say, is what's contained in the preface to The Picture of Dorian Gray. And most of it is a little bit of poetic nonsense, if you ask me. But the closing of the preface, which I will read in a second, I think is very poignant, and I think is something that I've certainly found to come up a lot since I read this. Also, as a side note, Oscar Wilde's name is sick. 1 second, please. Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wills Wilde. Like, if that's your name, you're destined for something. I don't know. Destined to be very remarkable as a person. Okay. It's pretty much the last, couple of lines of the preface. He says, "We can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely." And then he goes on to say all art is quite useless. I don't like the whole thing. I think he was doing a little bit of poeticism there when he said we can forgive somebody for making a useful thing as long as they don't admire it. I think that was just him trying to make a very nice juxtaposition with what he actually wanted to say, which is the only excuse for making a useless thing is to admire it intensely. Like when I did video yesterday, when I first had that thought, the thought was imperfect action is better than inaction. And then I tried to do the same thing in my head, and I was like, well, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Doesn't that sound so much better, right? It's a cool juxtaposition. And then I was like, wait a second, what the fuck is perfect inaction? What am I doing? Just say what you mean. So I changed it because that felt a little silly to me. But I think he's doing the same sort of thing here. Like, we can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. You can make a useful thing and admire it. Hot take. You can make, you can build a house or something and be very proud and in admiration of what you've done. And I think that's totally fine, both in my estimation and in the estimation of wider society. I think Oscar was not cooking with that one. But what he says next, the only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely. I think that's extremely true. And I think it broadly applies beyond just making something. I think if you engage in any behavior, any small part of your life that is not directly geared towards some very pragmatic productivity, your only real excuse for doing that is that you enjoy it, or that you like it, or that it brings some benefit to you or somebody else, right? So this ties into a bit of my personal philosophy about how the world works and how we should live in it, which I won't go into because that is very much its own discussion, and there's no need to dip a toe into that here, but I very much agree with him on this point. Not that you need to make excuses for yourself to engage in useless things, but in that useless things become in themselves admirable when you admire them. So, to give an illustrative example, right? I'm going to use a situation. This isn't like a literal thing, but take me and my girlfriend, all right? Let's say we both have a Saturday to ourselves. And what I do is I'll wake up and I'll work out and I'll play some video games and I'll walk the dog and I'll watch a YouTube video on like the stock market or something, and then I'll read a book, and then like I'll go visit my grandma, and then I'll go to bed. Like just that's a bit of a full day, but you get the idea. I'll do a bunch of stuff, right? And she'll wake up and she'll, go for a walk, and she'll do some yoga, and she'll watch some Netflix, and she'll do her skincare routine, and she'll go on Instagram for a little bit and like write to some friends and be like, hey, I hope everything's good. She'll go flip through like her pictures from the past week on her phone and be like, oh my God, wasn't that so fun? So what I'm trying to get at here is we do the same sort of thing, not literally the same thing, but neither of us are solving world hunger, and neither of us are sitting there staring at a wall, but we're engaging in small leisure habits that we both find enjoyable, right? So in my view, it's about equivalent. Now, if you were to go meet with each of us on Sunday, the day after all of this happens, and you were to ask me, hey, what did you do yesterday? I would say, nothing. Kind of, sat around, like, I went and saw my grandma, but not really anything. It was fine, right? Got wasted time. And what she would say, if you asked her the same question, she'd be like, oh my God, it was amazing. I did my skincare routine and I feel like I'm glowing, and I watched Modern Family on Netflix and it was so funny, and I went and I read this book and it was incredible, and like I really loved it, and it was so like it made me cry or it made me laugh or whatever it is, right? But what I'm getting at is she'll express all of these things very intimately, very intensely, very passionately. She'll have admiration for the things that she's done, right? She'll be very forthcoming with the fact that, yeah, this was great. Like, this was good for me. Were these things, and the unspoken subtext is, were these things productive? No. But were they good for me? Absolutely, right? This was incredible. So you'll come away from those two conversations without prior knowledge. Let's say you didn't know what I did and you didn't know what she did, and you'd say, wow, she spent her Saturday so much better, right? Like she's doing great, like good for her, go and do those things. And you'll come away from the conversation with me and be like, that guy kind of should probably get a hobby. Like, he should probably figure out something to do with his time. He's a bit of a slacker, a bit of a layabout, right? Even though we've done roughly the same stuff. And the difference is that people will let you get away with what you let yourself get away with, which is actually a bit of a deeper topic than at the surface level there, and I might make a video on that itself. But if you admire your own useless endeavors intensely, then it becomes admissible, right? And beyond admissible, it becomes a positive experience. So what I'm saying with this whole made-up anecdote is, be my girlfriend. Do not be me. Admire what you're doing. It's useful in the sense that it improves your life, and there is no greater utility than the improvement of your own life, in my personal opinion. So, or the lives of others, as the case may be. The summary of what I'm saying is, admire that which you do, which is both productive and unproductive, which is both pragmatic and an ephemeral self-enjoyment, hedonistic process. Anything that you do that brings joy and positivity into your own life is, in its own way, productive, so long as you recognize it as such. If you spend a day watching, there's limits to this, there are caveats to anything. If you literally sit there and like turn your brain off and watch like The Bachelor for, 18 hours, okay. Well, this is the thing. I was going to disparage that. Honestly, that becomes okay if you come away from that day and you feel better about yourself and like you feel good. Because then it's a good thing. It wouldn't be a good thing for me, but if you can legitimately sit there and do that and have it be a positive experience, I really don't think I'm the person to tell you it's the wrong thing to do. And that's exactly the core of what I'm saying, is if you sit there and you watch The Bachelor for 18 straight hours and then somebody asks you about it and you're like, wow, I'm a piece of shit. Like, I hate that I did that, whatever, then it becomes problematic. If it's a positive experience for you, then own that. Lean in. Love the fact that it was a positive experience for you and express that to others. Don't try to make excuses for yourself, right? What I'm trying to say is, do not sacrifice your soul on the altar of shareholder value. At some point, you have to put yourself first, and your own happiness is the biggest part of that. So admire that which you do, which is not productive. Admire it intensely, and you will abound with excuses for it. And in fact, you won't need them. And I think that's all I wanted to say on that, but Oscar Wilde was cooking with that one, in my personal estimation. It's Friday, so I'm not going to make another one of these till Monday. I'm gonna enjoy my weekend and my holidays. I hope the rest of you do as well. And if any... Oh, last thing, because I mean to say this at the end of every video, and I never do. If somebody watches this and you have something you want me to talk about, I will talk about it. Just leave a comment or a message or something. I don't know. I'm sure you can figure it out. But I would love to leave my echo chamber up here at some point. So now that's it. Okay. Long outro.